What's up, A to Z Sports Live on a Tuesday. Hope everybody is having a great start to your week and a great start to your Tuesday. We're going to have a big show. Easton is back from the NFL Combine. All the intel that he grabbed up in Indianapolis, we're about to just unload all of it in this next 60 minutes. But no, most of it's going to be about Cam Ward, why Cam Ward won the QB1 battle over Shedeur Sanders in the NFL draft for this year, and also what happened with Shedeur Sanders and why he didn't take that mantle and what separates those two guys. But also there is a domino that might have half fallen, or at least the domino is wobbling after last night with Sam Darnold. Like, which direction does the domino fall? It's like the pen that pisses you off. And we know when it's just fall down, man. So we'll talk about all of that with Sam Darnold and the updates from there. And it's a Tuesday, which means throwing shade. I have a shade that is particularly annoying to me. And I don't know if anybody else.
Isn't that how shades work?
No, but here's the thing about this one. Mm-hmm. I don't know if anybody else knows what I'm going to talk about. Like I might be by myself, or I don't know if this is something that other people are aware of, or if it's just me on an island. We'll find that out. So I'm intrigued by this shade that I've got at the very end. But Easton, I'm glad you traveled back from Indy safely and you're not completely exhausted. I'm sure you've caught up on a couple nights of sleep, but let's get this thing rocking and rolling. Welcome in.
Yeah, good morning. You know, the Indy circuit is actually way easier to handle once you've become a parent. I found in my third combine, and it was by far the least physically arduous because I guess you're just kind of used to that grind already. So the first 2 years I went, I know the first 2 years I went, I was still like that college mentality of like, oh, got to go to meetings at 8 a.m. After being out until 3 a.m. the previous night. And then this year I was like, I'm good. Let's get after it. I'll take a nap later. We know how this works. So feeling good, excited to be here. Good morning to you. Good morning to everybody in the comments. Got a ton to talk about today. Going to be a packed show of information and intel for you guys. Before we dive into all of it, though, we have to have you like the show. We need you to like the show this morning on Facebook, on YouTube. Hit that like button for us. Hit that thumbs up button right below our pretty faces. That's the easiest way that you can help us get this live product in front of as many eyeballs as possible. Be a friend of the show. Hit that like button for us. Austin, let's get it started.
Yep, let's do it officially. Welcome to A to Z Sports here live on a Tuesday. I'm Austin Stanley. He's Easton Freeze, one of our Titans reporters for A to Z Sports.com. We're Nashville's on-demand sports.network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links on segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. That's at A to Z Sports. Hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and more for Titans coverage. Also leave us that 5-star Google review for A to Z Sports. Got to thank our sponsors and make it happen for us and to help out all of you, like Wilson County Hyundai. Make them a part of your new car buying process in Lebanon or online, WilsonCountyHyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care, and and Bart Durham Injury Law. A crash can change your life forever, but help is just a click away at BartDurham.com. There is a lot to get to overall with what's happened at the Combine. People were clamoring, Easton, yesterday that why isn't Easton on the show to give us all of the intel from the Combine? It was Zach and I, normal
Isn't that
Mondays. Right? Yes, but I mean, how was the overall? Yeah, how was the overall feel from Indianapolis coming out of it? Did you feel like you gained a lot of interesting nuggets? Did you feel like you were being lied to for 4 straight days? What were your thoughts overall before we dive into the Sam Darnold update?
The Combine was fantastic. In terms of work, it is easily my favorite week of the year. Maybe that will change one day if I'm covering a Super Bowl or something, but I look forward to the Combine so much every year because it is, I heard somebody, I forget who, a former GM that I'm hearing this third hand, but I trust it because it sounds right. They once described the Combine as access and excess. And that's essentially what the week is in Indianapolis. It is a ton of access. It is, it's the NFL annual convention, really, is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's in one place, agents, players, coaches, media, and it's just a good time if you are in the news business, in the information gathering business. It's a good time if you love the draft and you just want to get to know these players, get to know how teams feel about these players. We find out some medical information, but it is a lot of conversations. Each year gets better for me because I am dramatically more connected both nationally and locally today than I was a year ago, and certainly more than I was 2 years ago. And so, have some privileged conversations with folks in Titans ranks, have some privileged conversations with some folks that have serious access nationally. You're cross-checking information with, beat writers who you trust from other beats, folks that work for national outlets, agents you run into at 2 a.m. At the bar. Assistant coaches you didn't know, and you're the quarterback's coach for the Buccaneers. I didn't meet that guy, but that's the kind of thing you run into is like, I had no idea. Like, tell me what's going on, what's fresh on your mind, and people are very happy to talk. A little social lubrication goes a long way. Starting about 10 p.m. each night, and there's just a lot of yapping, and so that's the key, right? Sifting through how much of it is accurate, how much of it is intentionally a lie. There's certainly a lot of intentional lies that fly around. And then there are some people that like talk that you can, they just probably don't know what they're talking about. So you have to sort through it all. And I feel like I have done a decent job of that. So we're going to talk about that quite a bit today, but I have a lot of information today that I did not have 1 week ago. And I think it's going to inform how we cover the rest of this draft cycle.
For sure. So let's first discuss the update that came out last night. And this is the wobbling domino that I referred to in the cold open. And that is the update about Vikings quarterback Sam Darnold. This one in particular from Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero, but Adam Schefter and others were also on this. The Vikings are not expected to franchise tag quarterback Sam Darnold by Tuesday/today's deadline per Rappaport and Pelissero, but all parties are working through options to potentially keep him in Minnesota. Darnold, who is set to hit free agency, has a situation best described as fluid. Easton, do you buy or sell that both sides are looking at options to keep Darnold in Minnesota? Because why is this important? Why is Sam Darnold not expected to get the franchise tag important for the entire quarterback domino line in free agency that leads into the draft?
Yeah, for a couple of reasons. And to answer your first question, I do buy that both Darnold and the Vikings are at least interested in kicking the tires on what it would look like to keep him in Minnesota. But the primary reason why it's important is because where Sam Darnold ends up playing next year is going to be a significant factor in the rookie quarterback situation and who's picking who at the top of the draft. Whether or not he is back in Minnesota or playing for the Raiders or playing for the Steelers or the Jets or even the Giants or the Titans, that's going to give us a real clue as to where these rookies might end up. And so that's the primary reason. The secondary reason is on the topic of the tag in particular, we will know for sure, I think by 3 p.m., 4 p.m. this afternoon when the tag deadline arrives. And, all indications are this is not complicated. They're not going to tag him. And what that tells me, Austin, is that there may be a weaker Sam Darnold market than previously expected. It made the most sense for the Vikings to tag Darnold if they had a strong indication coming out of the combine that there was going to be a serious market for him. If there was going to be 3, 4, 5 teams very seriously bidding on Darnold as their quarterback next year, the Vikings could have just tagged and traded to the highest bidder, and that would have probably reaped them the best reward. Now, letting him walk in free agency is still going to get them a compensatory pick back. So, they're not getting nothing for it. But I do think that them not tagging him tells us that this might be a smaller bidding war than we previously thought. Mm-hmm. And I also think it tells us that, the Titans aren't all the way out by any means on, kicking the tires on the
Yeah.
Sam Darnold situation, which we can talk about a little bit more.
Yeah. So, real quick, through all that, very clear explanation, but your video and audio is doing that thing where it looks like a cartoon is originally from a different language. So, do your trick to allow that to reset itself that you figured out. And while you do that, I'm going to go back and reset the situation overall of the Vikings and the franchise tag, because the quarterback franchise tag, the non-exclusive franchise tag for quarterbacks currently is just over $40 million. So the way the Vikings could tag and trade, and I saw Bork's comment that he is surprised that they wouldn't try a tag and trade. And I think the overall risk, and Easton should be back now, but the overall risk of trying a tag and trade is, if you do tag Sam Darnold, you pay him $40 million and it counts all on your cap in 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
You can't trade him, then you're stuck with him because the trade is going to be so expensive. And so it's like, are you willing to sit with the consequences and pay Sam Darnold $40 million plus in 1 year when you want it? I think that is where the non-franchise tag risk comes into it. So that's it does make sense to me on why they're not franchise tagging him if they don't think that a trade is guaranteed.
Right. Is this thing fixed, by the way? Hello?
You're good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, sorry about that. But and that's what it is. It's not just, the number is important as well. And I'm glad you brought that up, because it's not just how many teams would be bidding on Darnold. But again, the Vikings needed to come out of the combine confident that there was at least some team willing to give him at least $40 million a year, right? Because they would be setting that as his price if they tagged and traded him for a team.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, while technically it's not legal at the combine we're not legal tampering yet, we're illegal tampering. There is a lot of illegal tampering. And so the Vikings, they would have come out of last week knowing what exactly the money is going to look like on that market. And I think it is a good news, a bad news situation for them, because I do think they'd like to retain him for the right number. And so for teams like the Vikings and for teams like the Titans who are interested but aren't tilted on a desperate run at him and long-term money blowing out your books, like, that's a good thing, because it sounds like you might be able to be a part of the bidding that you thought you'd be priced out of.
Yeah, for sure. A to Z Sports here live on a Tuesday. We're talking about the Sam Darnold update there. The franchise tag deadline is this afternoon on Tuesday. And then we'll find out how that quarterback domino could affect the Titans. But Easton, the main part of today's show is for you to share the intel that you gathered in Indianapolis at the NFL Combine on why Cam Ward and how Cam Ward beat out Shedeur Sanders to be QB1 in this draft, and to really find out all the details on the QB1 battle and what that means for the Titans, what that means for the number 1 overall draft pick, regardless of who is pulling the trigger on that number 1 overall draft pick. We will get to your intel here momentarily. But first, I want to tell you guys about our special sponsor. That is Factor. I've used Factor many, many times over the last years. Ready to optimize your nutrition for this year? Factor has chef-made gourmet meals that make eating well easy. They're dietitian approved and ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes. That's in the microwave. I usually do 9 minutes in the oven at 375. That's just me. But you can feel right and feel great no matter what life throws at you. Factor arrives fresh and fully prepared, perfect for any active, busy lifestyle. With 40 options across 8 different dietary preferences on each menu every week, it's easy to pick the meals tailored to your goals, whether you're trying to go lose some weight. You can lose up to 8 pounds in 8 weeks with Factor's keto meals based on how they controlled their clinical trial with Factor Keto. Right there, results obviously vary. But I've used Factor over the last year or so, couple of different times, and it really does come in the clutch, and it is very good food. It's very good food.
It is
for an
tasty.
affordable meal price. and it's ready to eat and easy. You just throw it in the microwave or throw it in the oven, and it's ready to eat under 10 minutes. And then it usually takes me also under 10 minutes to eat it because it does taste that good. So you can eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/factorpodcast and use code FACTORPODCAST to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code FACTORPODCAST at factormeals.com/FACTORPODCAST to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box.
So much more to say, but before we move on, everybody make sure that you are subscribed to our YouTube channel, the A to Z Sports YouTube channel. If you're watching there with us this morning, after you hit like right down there below our faces, hit that subscribe button as well. And if you don't want to miss anything, hit that notifications bell as well so that you can see all of not just our live shows in the mornings and in the evenings with primetime, but we've got a ton of unscheduled content. Interview series, did a bunch of interviews with folks that you are going to want to hear from while at the combine. Some exciting topics about the Titans and the draft. Have another one of those running here in the next day or two. I know Sam and I are doing videos, shorter form videos on hot topics, diving into some things that we don't cover here on the morning show. You'll want to catch all of those things, and you got to be subscribed with those notifications turned on so you don't miss any of them.
All right, so Easton, give us some of your intel on what you learned about Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, the QB1 battle of this 2025 NFL draft, from what you gathered at the NFL Combine.
Yeah, I found out who the Titans are going to pick in the first round. So that's exciting. Not really, but sort of. And that's a segue into the actual topic at hand here, which is the biggest takeaway for me. Coming into the week, I was repeating until I was blue in the face how it's crucial for us to understand where the Titans are in this process, right? The fact that this is a 3-phase cycle for them. The combine week is the end of their phase 1. It's their first opportunity to meet with any of these players. The first time they met Cam Ward was this past week. That matters a ton to these guys that are making the final decision. And so they've watched every player on their board, all 450, 500 players on their board. They've watched at least a little bit of all of them, about 3 games of all of them, but they're only about a third of the way through that tape study. They're going to watch the second third coming up this month and the third coming up in about a month from now. So they're going to try to get to 9 or more games on all of these guys. And the meetings and the little bit of tape that they've studied so far are what they're currently going off of. Now, an article I wrote on Monday at the top of the week, I shared an anecdote that was shared with me about the year that the Bengals drafted Joe Burrow, right? And if folks missed that, I think it'd be a good one to share here on the air because I find it interesting. We've heard Brian Callahan talk about how that year in 2021, whatever that was, he was a part of the
2020 draft, 2019 college season, pre-COVID.
Yep, that checks out. So that year, no, that's right. Because Joe Burrow didn't win a national championship in COVID. Correct. That year, they end up drafting Joe Burrow, right? Brian Callahan and the Bengals. He's used it as the example of that's the kind of year where there's a clear cut first overall pick, who is your guy relatively early, right? The question is, how early is early? And this anecdote, I think enlightened me, and I think it will enlighten you when you hear it. That year, they came into their combine not sure about who their pick was going to be at number 1 between Tua Tagovailoa and Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow. They wanted to see these guys throw. They wanted to meet with them. It wasn't until about the 3rd, 4th week of March that they came to a quiet internal decision. Joe's our guy. We're going to take Joe. So, and again, that's the year where they knew early. So all of that to say, they don't know for sure yet. And that's why they're having all 4 of the top 4 candidates in for visits at an aggressive rate in the next 2 weeks, right? All 4 of these guys are trying to get in before free agency. Now,
so knowing early, at least in the Bengals top pick situation with Burrow, was late March, is early.
Right. So all of that is to say the Titans are not going to know who their ultimate pick is until like April at the earliest, I would assume. That doesn't mean that they can't start eliminating options, right? And so what I want to share today, the biggest change for me was, I went into the week saying that it would go, the combine week's going to go a long way in helping me whittle down what exactly the realistic options are for the Titans at the top of the draft. And after all of the conversations that I had, I think the landscape is a lot clearer to me now. And the biggest change for me from what I thought before the week to now what I think after it is that I just don't see a world in which the Titans stay at number 1 overall and don't take Cam Ward. Now, to be clear, that doesn't mean that I think they are going to take Cam Ward. That just means I'm certain at this point. I'm as close to certain as you can be that Cam Ward is going to end up being the number 1 overall pick for somebody. I don't know who's going to make that pick. And that's what we're going to spend the next couple of days and weeks and maybe month talking about is, do the Titans stay there? If they do, I think it tells us that they're going to take Cam Ward, because I don't see a world in which they don't get. I think Cam Ward is the consensus quarterback 1. Like the league coming together last week made that very clear. He's a definitive cut above Shedeur Sanders. And I'm not talking about my personal opinion of them, to be clear. This is what I understand the consensus.
Yeah, this is your intel from the combine. It's not just talking to the Titans, but talking to other scouts, other media members, draft analysts, and other just people, agents. I mean, there's so many people at NFL spring break in Indy.
Yes, and so that's why folks watching might be like, "Well, I thought Easton was kind of a Shedeur guy." I am. I'm a big fan. I tweeted about this. I tweeted a thread the week before the combine after I finished my tape study of both of those quarterbacks. I came away a fan of both. I like them both a lot. They're different players, and they're going to need different situations to succeed. But I think very highly of both of them in terms of their tape. I do see the vision for Sanders to be a very good NFL starter. To be clear, this week wasn't great for him, but I don't see a free fall in the draft either. I still think that he's liable to go anywhere from the 2nd overall pick to the 7th overall pick, which is about where we thought he was going to go in the first place. But it wasn't a great week. And, you've heard some things probably in the past 48 hours about how meetings didn't go necessarily great. And, he's the kind of guy that teams were hoping to get in the meeting room, get on the whiteboard, and be blown away by the intangibles, blown away by the football mind. And from what I heard, and from, you can cross-check that with other insiders who have, been talking about this, writing about this the past 2 days, they were more blown away by Cam Ward in that way. Cam Ward was the more impressive player when it came to how he carried himself, the football mind, his ability to answer questions and get on the whiteboard, and all of those things that folks were hoping to see from Shedeur. And Shedeur had a very good, all reports indicated, and I can confirm were true, that in Dallas a month ago at the Shrine Bowl, everything about the Shedeur meetings were great. Everybody loved them. Very different vibe this week from the same people that we're talking about, that the same folks that were in those rooms. It just wasn't as good a week. It was kind of a different vibe. And I don't think he quite passed the vibe check for some teams this week.
Well, let's think about this, because it was a clean slate for Cam Ward. Cam Ward did not have a Shrine Bowl or a Senior Bowl or a first impression a month ago. So there was nothing to compare it to. So I think with Shedeur Sanders, you had notes, you had meetings that you could compare the combine to the Shrine to. And the combine is a very intense situation and very fast paced. And the Shrine Bowl is definitely more lax.
And that comparison, that cross-checking is a big part of this process, right? Because I've heard some folks be like, well, why would they want to have him in for a visit, less than a week after they just talked to him in Indianapolis? It's because, these coaches, they write down every word of answer that you give them. They make notes they film the meetings. They memorize how those things went. And because this is all a big job interview, it's a big performance, it's a big dance. They are trying to sniff out any fraudulence, trying to sniff out any performative nonsense. And so having a guy for 18 intense minutes in a suite in Lucas Oil Stadium last week, and then one week later having him over for the day to the Titans facility and doing all kinds of things with him, that's an opportunity for them to cross-check what they think they know about you and get to know you better and compare answers you gave then versus answers you gave now. And so your point of Ward not having that second opportunity is absolutely correct. For Sanders, it was a second opportunity, and all indications are that didn't go great. It wasn't a disaster. I mean, I heard some stories about some guys that just blew interviews and are just like, oh, this guy doesn't know anything about football. Wow. It was not like that by any stretch of the imagination. It just wasn't they didn't come away impressed the way that they were hoping they would.
Well, and so a question here from Jacqueline asked, why have Shedeur visit if they're so high on Cam? There's not like out.
I don't know that they're so high on Cam, to be clear. I don't know that.
And I think it's also, Jacqueline, like they have 30 of these visits. They can bring 30 prospects that are like into their facility. That does not include the local prospects. So any prospect who went to high school or college within the Nashville area or whatever their local region dictates. I don't know what the fence line is on that, but they can do that on a local day. So for a guy who went to Vanderbilt or MTSU or even Tennessee, and if you don't want to burn a 30 visit on a day 3 prospect from one of those schools, then have them in on your local day, because you can't do that with some others. So I think you have Shedeur and Cam both visit, one, because you're still gathering intel. As Easton said, the Bengals said they knew early meaning late March. This is early March right now. You're still gathering all of your information.
In Indianapolis that didn't go particularly well is not – those 18 minutes didn't take him off their board.
Okay, let me ask this question. I don't know if you know the answer to it, but I'm just asking it, throwing it out there just to understand the difference and the nuance options here of 18 minutes of an interview. Did Shedeur's like not go well or just not as good as Cam's? But still fine.
And that's a fair question.
Was it bad? Was it average? Was it above average? Was it good? Not great? We don't know what that – there's so many variances between like bombed it and crushed it.
100%. And that's the question that I don't feel comfortable answering that question because I wasn't there.
That's fine.
I can't
just throwing it out there for the point. But I think for going back to Jacqueline's question is why have Shedeur visit if they're so high on Cam? Well, you bring in both of them because you want the rest of the league, if you're curious to finding out what you could get for the number 1 overall pick in the case that you don't want to draft one of these quarterbacks at 1, then you bring in them both and you continue to throw smoke and make the league believe that you were interested in either.
You don't make these big decisions based on brief early impressions, right? I saw Sean Payton on the Combine broadcast the other day talking about his first impression of Bo Nix, who he now adores. That was at the Senior Bowl, and Bo had a terrible week. He sucked. At the Combine, he threw – or sorry, not at the Senior Bowl. It was at the Combine, I believe, was when he first saw him and last year. And he didn't throw particularly well. I think both, but either way. In the early throwing with teammates you don't know opportunities in the season, Bo stunk. And that was the first impression that the Broncos had of him. And then they did the rest of their process. They trusted that they were tape driven. They had him in on the 30 visit. The 30 visit stories about how they were impressed with what was in his backpack and the way that he carried himself. Like those kind of things come from a full day at the facility, not 18 minutes in a suite in Indianapolis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So another comment that I'm honestly confused at. Caleb says they dislike confident black quarterbacks. Well, one, who is they? Because that doesn't make any sense. Who is
anybody
they?
Who disagrees with me?
Yeah, but like both Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders are both very confident human beings, and they are also both black quarterbacks.
I know a pretty confident black quarterback that played for the Titans one time.
Oh yeah, Steve.
Yeah, his name was Steve McNair. He was the man.
Yeah, and Vince Young was also pretty confident too.
Yeah,
maybe overly confident, but at times. But whatever. But this is stupid because who is they? And they're both very confident. And just because Cam Ward's QB1 and Shedeur Sanders is QB2 doesn't mean that they dislike a confident.
Mike Borgonzi off the heels of working with the most confident black quarterback who happens to be the best player in the history of the sport. Not a fan of confident black quarterbacks.
It's so stupid. It's so stupid. Like, if anything, Cam Ward is louder confident than Shedeur Sanders is. I want to get to another comment too, because I thought it was interesting. Our guy Morocco says, I just don't understand why Sanders' consistency from a production standpoint and Ward's year-to-year improvement gets thrown out the window by those who think they aren't legit first-round prospects.
I agree.
They are legit first-round prospects. I think the question is, are they number one overall pick prospects?
Sure.
Right? And Michael Penix Jr. was not a number one overall pick prospect, but he was a first-round prospect. Bo Nix, the same thing. I mean, Bo Nix was arguably a first-round pick prospect. In big boards, he was like in the 30s or early 40s, but went 12.
But Mr. Taylor here is all over it. And these are two things that I have had coaches inside the Titans building mention to me in conversation about these quarterbacks. And I think it's a league-wide thing too. To one of your theses, Austin, about how good players in college are the prerequisite to being good players in the NFL. These guys were both very productive in college. They were both very good players in college for multiple years. And in the case of Shedeur, it was, for 3 or 4 years and then transforming a D1 program. And with Cam, it was succeeding at every stop along the way and getting markedly better each year. And those are things that, it sounds simple, but those are things that teams really value. Is like, hey, how good was this guy in college? How did he take the mantle of transforming his team, of leading his team? Both these guys did that. So they both check that box. And that's a big reason why they're both going to be top 10 picks.
Right. All right. So here's the next level, because I'm going to go ahead and ask this question.
I feel like we kind of ignored Cam. Let's get back to Cam eventually, just for the record. The whole why he's going to be number one thing. I want to we'll touch on that. Are you ready to take it somewhere else? Where are we going here?
All right. Can you do 60
Give me 60
seconds?
seconds. Give me 60
seconds on why Cam Ward won the QB1 battle in this draft over Shedeur Sanders.
Right. It's not even that, though. It's why I'm confident he's going to be the first overall pick. And it's because the love, the adoration from everyone I spoke to, both in the media, not just media folks who are have their own opinion, but folks who are very much more plugged in than I am to teams nationally, the way that they talk about him. I mean, at one point, Dane Brugler, who I was talking to on the media floor, he said, I have the quote here. He said, he said verbatim, I think that when it's all said and done, Cam Ward is going to be the number one overall pick. I just don't know that it's going to be the Titans. He said that so matter of fact, he's so certain of it, that it made me go, oh, okay. This is a situation where he has cleared the bar of good enough quarterback to be deemed a top 10 pick, therefore good enough quarterback to be the first overall pick. And in a class where there aren't other quarterback options in free agency or down the board in the draft, some team is going to be tilted. Either the Titans are going to convince themselves, let's keep this simple, fellas. We're taking the best quarterback. He's our guy at 1. Or another team says, we can't pass up on this guy. We have to go get him. We're willing to mortgage our future to go get him. I'm certain that's going to happen based on the conversations I had about, as close to certain as I can. This will sound stupid if not. The only way it doesn't happen, the only way, is if I'm wrong about what the Giants or the Raiders think, and or they just happen to fall into very specific quarterback situations in the next month that keep them from having to come up, and the Titans can't get out of one. But if the Titans aren't in on Cam, I feel really certain they're going to find a way to get out of that pick.
All right. So I have another question that's not on our board. It's off the board question. I want you to think about this. What percentage chance is Cam Ward the number one overall draft pick? Regardless of team, what percentage do you give that Cam Ward is the number one draft pick? That I want you to think about that. And if you guys want to answer that in the chat, we can get to that in here in a second. Then we have the actual question that we were going to ask you guys too come up as well. But first, I'm going to tell you guys about the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care whenever an injury happens in life to you or your family members or son or daughter playing youth sports. Just like in football, injuries do happen in life, and you need the best people on your team to help you get through that. That is the Bone and Joint Institute in Franklin, Tennessee, off Highway 96 and I-65 in Franklin, next to Williamson Medical Center. Actually, we do have some content coming soon in the middle of this week with the Bone and Joint Institute. The Doc Talk segments are phenomenal, always educational. And we're going to talk to one of the Bone and Joint Institute's experts about Abdul Carter's foot stress reaction injury that was discovered at the NFL Combine, and learn more about that. So keep your eyes peeled for that one over the next day and a half or so. But always, the Bone and Joint Institute's got you covered, boneandjointtn.org.
There's so much more to say, but first, go to Google, open Google on your phone, on your computer, search A to Z Sports. Once you find the Google business at the top of that page for A to Z Sports, hit the comment section, leave us a 5-star review. That's what we're looking for. We're trying to get to a flat 5.0 5-star review on Google. It's very, very helpful for us, our traffic, all of these things about the internet that nobody cares about, but they're very helpful to us. Trust us on that. So hit that 5-star review button on Google reviews for us over at A to Z Sports. Just search A to Z Sports on Google and you'll find it there.
All right. So Easton, I will ask you the question again, and we'll check out the chat here momentarily. But what percentage chance do you give that Cam Ward is the number 1 overall pick, regardless of the team? So the number 1 overall pick being Cam Ward, regardless of who drafts him, whether it's the Titans or somebody else. What is your percentage here?
95% chance he's the
95% chance. Holy bleep.
Yeah.
95%, Easton. What's the other 5?
The other 5 is the Raiders just they end up falling into something where they're comfortable with, the Raiders land, first of all, Raiders get Darnold. Okay, cool. Raiders got Darnold. They fall in love with Fields or Russ, or like somebody that they convince themselves over the next month, we're good. It's going to cost so much to go up. Giants, same thing. The Giants somehow win the Darnold sweepstakes, or they're talking to Rodgers. Maybe they go, but here's the thing about Rodgers. If Rodgers is a Giant in the near future, I don't think that precludes them from still drafting a quarterback, just to be clear. I think it's just a negotiating tactic for them. But it's going to take teams souring on Ward's somehow in the next month enough to not give the Titans a half-decent offer, and the Titans get stuck. Because what I am confident in saying is, if the Titans like Ward, they are going to take him at 1. And if they really don't want to take Ward, like if they're just, we're not spending our first pick, wherever we are picking in the first round, we're not spending on a Ward, then they're going to desperately try to get out of the pick. They're going to find somebody. And if that means, they get a pair of 2s or a pair of 3s and change, I'm going to write about this later this week, by the way. Maybe we'll do a show on it, because I think there's a pretty strong argument to be made that the Titans should take the cheapest trade down option in the history of first overall picks in the NFL. If they don't like Cam Ward, they should take anything to move. So that's kind of a hot one. We'll talk about that later. But I think that's kind of their mindset. And so that 5% is the Titans get stuck, and somehow the market dries up in the next month. Ward does something stupid, or in his meetings, they find something they don't like, or something changes that we don't currently know that forces the Titans to pick a guy at 1. That's the 5%.
And they don't like Cam. Because I think if they
don't like Cam, right?
Yeah.
Because here's what I told you the other day, and this is in terms of percentages.
95%
I think
is crazy.
I think you should go bet. I'm sure he's the betting favorite right now. I don't know what the number is, but there's probably not good juice on it. But I would bet on Cam Ward to be the number 1 pick. I think as of right now, about a 40% chance Cam Ward is the Titans pick, and I think if they stay at 1, it's all but 100%. Again, a 95% chance that.
So you think 95% chance Cam Ward's the number 1 overall draft pick, regardless of the team that picks him?
Yeah. So same number for if the Titans stay at 1, 95% chance they draft Cam.
Yeah, and then if the Titans do not stay at 1, and then it's 100%.
Then it's 100% chance. Yeah, no one's coming up for anybody but Cam. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So I did not expect you to be that high of a percentage of 95%. I'm gonna see if
maybe I'll be wrong, but you got to say it with your chest. That's how I feel today.
I'm gonna try to scroll back up and see if I can get some other percentages from you guys in the chat.
I've got them right here. Yankster said 75. Corey 99.5. I mean, Corey's all in. Casey
There's
says
some
90% chance.
Yeah.
Jeff says 65, 87, 95, 60. Everybody's above 50% here. 95%, 100% from Steven, 65%, 85%. Is anybody Let's see. I'll find something. 56%. So Maserati not convinced necessarily. Lou Chesney's 12.7% chance, 43% chance from the GOAT. 0%. Chris is not buying it at all. No shot. Neither is Corey. Does not think he's the first overall pick. 40% chance for Mr. Robinson. So the majority of folks are living in that 65 to 95% range, but there are still some doubters.
I was prepared to say 80% before I heard yours.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to say 85%.
Okay.
Because
sure,
I believe what you're saying, but 95% is just so high.
The biggest pause that I currently have is the time, right? Like if the draft was next week, I would probably come on here and just say, screw it, 100% chance. But the fact that there are, almost 2 full months between now and the draft, it's a long time for something to happen, something that we don't currently know. And that will change the picture if that happens. But right now, maybe that's the best way to put it. Right now, if the draft was this Thursday and not a Thursday 7 weeks from now, Cam Ward's the number 1 pick, man. He is.
That's just such a high percentage.
Yeah, it is.
Okay,
it's funny if I'm wrong, but I don't think I am.
So I think Shedeur Sanders is a better fit for Brian Callahan. Let me recap my brain since the Titans got the number 1 overall pick.
Mm-hmm.
Shedeur Sanders is the better prospect to fit for Brian Callahan, but the Titans should not just default to doing what's best for Brian Callahan in a vacuum. They have to look at the bigger picture overall, higher level, right?
Yeah. Well, and even Brian Callahan at the podium on Monday said, we're not going to forego talent for a better fit.
I also believe, and Ryan Roberts and I guess you and I didn't talk about this, Easton, last week, but like Mel Kiper Jr. had a really good point of don't let a previous miss on a quarterback evaluation turn you off of somebody who has similar traits as the guy you missed on. Like, just because Will Levis, who plays out of structure, is not very good for you and is driving you crazy and growing you gray hairs, doesn't mean Cam Ward, who plays out of structure, will add to those gray hairs.
Don't fall prey to rebound theory, right?
No, yeah, but I think
the brunette just broke your heart and you're looking for blondes. That's not the way to go.
It's very human nature. Mm-hmm. Tennessee Volunteers fire Phil Fulmer, right? They move on. Well, fire.
I was about to say.
You flip the Lane Kiffin.
The top of organizations are the most guilty of this when it comes to hiring coaches and GMs. They swing so hard the other way.
So I'm still recapping my brain. I like Shedeur Sanders. I think Shedeur Sanders has had every opportunity to be a spoiled brat and has not at all done that. And I think he is a very capable NFL quarterback. He just doesn't have as high of a ceiling as Cam Ward, who has a lower floor than Shedeur Sanders. The Titans had the number 1 overall draft pick. I'm still thinking trade back, but the whole Cam Ward situation of the league viewing him pretty definitively as a better quarterback prospect than Shedeur Sanders. Like, that seems very across the board, the take and the belief. Then I heard this, Easton, and shout out to you because this was on your interview with the trio of guys who do the Ringer Fantasy Football podcast. Is that correct?
These guys are hilarious. Yes.
So these 3 guys you sat down with at Indianapolis, and this take that was brought up by Craig on the show.
It's a good point.
Made me be like, ooh, maybe I should back up a little bit.
It's a good point.
This matters, and we're about to ask you guys how much it actually might matter.
I don't even know if I'm viewing it more holistically as like from an owner's perspective where it's like you're selling tickets, but there is a little bit of like, if you miss out, if Shedeur ends up being great, I would regret missing that pick more than I would Cam Ward. I can see that. Yeah.
That's definitely true. Because Shedeur is going to be like stupidly famous.
Yes.
Like if he's going to be. I'm saying if he's good,
even more, yeah.
Like there's not really think of this way. If Shedeur actually is like, what if he's just incredible?
Right.
Like Bo Nix threw 29 touchdowns this year. All right, we didn't talk about it that much. Jaden was there. There was also obviously talked about it. If Shedeur Sanders throws like 30 touchdowns as a rookie, he could reach levels of fame like we've never seen.
Yeah, your franchise has changed overnight, and it's
Yeah.
not necessarily true if Cam Ward throws 20.
And so, frankly, there's a business case to be made, which is a weird thing to talk about, but like that's a real thing for a lot of their businesses. My take on it is like, I don't know if anyone's been more likely to get you fired than drafting Shedeur Sanders, like ever, because at the end of the day, like let's say the Giants, Stafford goes to the Raiders, and the Giants get like Justin Fields, and they draft Shedeur Sanders, and they start 0-5. Every first take segment on ESPN starts with like, when will Deion Sanders take Brian Dable's job, which is like a stress test for how your entire organization, a pretty tough culture organization. I actually am higher on Shedeur as a prospect than I think other people. I'm really confident he's going to be, like, barring injury, like a 12-year starter. I think he's like very similar to Brock Purdy. I think he has really high football IQ. I think he's tough. I like Shedeur a lot. Is he better enough than Cam Ward to justify what I think is undeniably, I think there's connotations to the word distraction or whatever, but I think they'd be the first people to say, we're really famous and people pay attention to the Sanders family all the time. And I wonder, it just seems like there's easier ways to win than just bringing that in. But that's the flip side of the coin. It's better for business, probably worse for the team.
I feel he's just higher volatility.
Yes.
There's just more volatility there, more variance.
But they're close enough in skill. It's like, I know Shedeur is pretty much the second QB on everybody's board. Not many people have him over Ward. But they're close enough where the upside of Shedeur, holistically, including all the stuff outside of the game as well, to me is too high to go after a guy like Cam Ward, who I don't know.
That made me go like, damn, that's a really interesting aspect of this.
And we did this like right after Shedeur was at the podium, like within the hour. And so it's all fresh on our minds of like just the way he carried himself, the star power. Like everybody came away from that podium availability like, you know how some guys just, you feel like there's no way this guy isn't a star. Where you just see him and you're like, I don't know how. It may not even make any sense on paper, but this guy's going to work out somehow. That's how that podium felt. It did. It may be wrong, but it's how it felt.
I love the thought process of this because the double-sided coin that was talked through there is if Shedeur Sanders is good, like Bo Nix threw 29 touchdowns. What?
Way more than I would have guessed. Yeah.
Like when did Bo Nix throw 29 touchdowns last
year? Yeah, he had a nice year. Really strong year for the guy that we didn't think was going to be very good.
If Will Levis threw 29 touchdowns last year, we'd be talking about a $60 million contract in summer 2026.
Yeah.
That's not hyperbole either.
No.
But if Shedeur Sanders, if he's good, the Titans are set. Nobody gave a rat's ass about the Kansas City Chiefs when Alex Smith was going 9-7, 10-6, and going to the playoffs and maybe winning a playoff game. Like the Chiefs are in the middle of no man's land in the country, in the Midwest, and nobody cares. It's a smaller market, but they have Patrick Mahomes.
Austin, this is a preview of the conversation we're maybe gonna have a year from now, right? Because everyone loves Arch because Arch is Arch. But there's a year of college football between now and then. It's very possible. There's guys that are more experienced than him that are going to be in this next draft class. Now, it's possible it doesn't come out, but if he comes out next year, there's a chance that people think, Garrett Nussmeier, kind of better. Drew Aller, kind of like his profile. But like Arch had a nice year. He'll be a first-round pick, but I'm not sure he's the top pick. And we'll have this exact same conversation blown up to first take levels for 3 months but if you pass on a Manning as the number one quarterback on the board, and he's a Manning in the NFL, how stupid do you look? The same thing is going to happen if Shedeur Sanders ends up being a Sanders in the NFL.
It's crazy. And like, if Cam Ward flops, then okay.
Just another guy, another one we missed on.
But if you pass on Shedeur Sanders and he is a superstar,
and now it's the self-fulfilling prophecy, right? If the further he falls on the board, the more likely he is to be a superstar.
But let's just say like superstar. Like I said this back in the summer, the two most famous players on the Titans roster in training camp, famous players. The two most famous players on the Titans roster in training camp were DeAndre Hopkins and Jamal Adams. Jamal Adams sucks. He's not good anymore.
Shout out my article where I reviewed every single snap of Jamal Adams' tenure.
Bad player. But if Shedeur Sanders is the 14th best quarterback in the NFL,
Right.
he is a superstar.
And that's what I wanted to clarify is you mean superstar in terms of name value, because to the point of the Ringer Boys where they're like, all he has to do is have a Bo Nix season, 29 touchdowns. And he's all we're going to talk about. He's all we're going to talk about.
Like that is if he puts up numbers like Ryan Tannehill did, the Titans, and Tannehill had a really good couple of years. So I don't want to like water down how good Tannehill was when he combined for 40 touchdowns in 16 games in 2020. I don't want to water that down at all. But if Shedeur Sanders plays average to above average NFL football, he is all over and has put the Titans on the map. And Amy Adams Strunk says, this is helping pay me back for what I spent on the stadium. And that is true. That is true. So
it's a part of the calculus.
It
may be stupid that it's a part of it, but it is a part of it.
I don't think it's dumb. Because
I mean, if you're a football guy, if you're a coach, it's dumb. But for everybody else involved, it's not dumb.
It's business.
Yeah, it's the
NFL, the
greatest
best
reality TV show on the planet.
The best explanation of the NFL that I've heard, I forget who told me this, so it's not me, not my quote. Somebody told me this.
And this is perfect. Yes,
that the NFL is a business disguised as a sport.
Oh, that's not what. Yeah, okay. It's similar is when you talk about the difference between college football and the NFL, is that college football is an event that you can watch on TV, and the NFL is a TV show that you can go to as an event. The NFL at the end of that's why college football, the atmosphere in the stadium, like college football is a game you want to be at, but you can also watch it on TV. The NFL is a game you watch on TV that you can also go to if you like to go to it.
Yeah, but it's better on TV.
It's one of the greatest television show in the world.
But Shedeur Sanders puts the Tennessee Titans on the map. And David brings us up. Wasn't Johnny Manziel popular in college? The latest example of what we're talking about here is Johnny Manziel, I think.
And that's the cautious tale, right? Because he was the first quarterback off the board.
Manziel wasn't like legacy famous.
Yeah, but he was like Tim Tebow famous, where he was the face of the sport. He was the guy that was going. The Browns took him, and even though he just blew chunks for a year, he still was the talk of the league for most of that year, right?
And
for worse than not. As opposed to for better, but still.
But I feel like Shedeur Sanders made
it's a step up. It is a step up.
But like Johnny Manziel was such a reckless wild card as a human.
I'm not comparing.
I know. I'm just saying. And Shedeur Sanders is the opposite. But Shedeur Sanders' fame has way more potential than Johnny Manziel, I think.
Well, the number one problem for Manziel is that he couldn't handle the fame. We already know that
Shedeur
is currently handling it, can handle it. It may, I'm not saying he's perfect, and that maybe the fame of it all is what causes him ultimately to be a little bit of a diva, or maybe not. Guys just naturally have to, he's got a rap career apparently, he's got other things going on. So maybe ultimately the fame is what is his downfall. I'm not expecting that to be the case, but you can't rule that out because he's still a young guy. And to our point, his star, as big as as high as it currently is, can rise infinitely if he's a good NFL quarterback. And so that's what teams have to consider.
Yeah, it is wild. Now, Billy says Sanders got sacked more than any college quarterback. We've been over this, and that is a fact. I don't know if that's a fact.
Take a peek at the offensive line he was playing.
The offensive line was garbage. And so, you look at Shedeur Sanders just didn't get recruited and go to Alabama that has 5 stars sitting on the bench on the offensive line. He went to Colorado that has a 5-star true freshman Jordan Seaton trying to be the best lineman on the team. And fighting for
4 undraftable linemen and then a 5-star freshman who's swimming out there.
An 18-year-old who's just trying to
do his best.
tread water.
He will probably ultimately be a good player.
And Curtis brings up no run game.
Yeah. Listen, we've made the case so much on this show. Like we're still on Shedeur. Today's about the news of it all, where Cam's going to be the pick. He's going to be the guy.
So Cam Ward is going. Yeah, I'm quoting Easton Freeze to recap the last 54 minutes. Cam Ward, 95% chance to be the first overall draft pick, whether it's the Titans or somebody else.
Thank you for actually quoting me and not saying you quoted me by twisting my words.
Drama. Whoa. But then Shedeur and the guys at the Ringer Pod bring up the potential of missing on Shedeur Sanders, and he's good, and what that can do for the business of your franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is something that is very interesting. I don't know how it actually plays a factor, but we'll figure that out. Speaking of Factor podcast. There you go. I'll just do this one more time. Hey. Factor podcast. There you go. Factor podcast. Factor.com/Factor podcast. 50% off your first box. So let's go ahead and get to some super chats because we got a lot of them to come in through here and some other comments that we get to before Shade. Real quick, Bart Durham Injury Law. You deserve to be paid for what you go through, and Bart Durham Injury Law has helped out Nashvillians and Tennesseans for 50 years since Bart Durham opened the doors of business in 1975, and Bart passing away last April, and his son Blair Durham, Marine vet and great Nashvillian, has been running the show and doing a phenomenal job keeping his father's legacy rolling and keeping Nashvillians and helping Nashvillians atop of his mind. So whatever car accident you get into or a big truck wreck, that is Bart Durham Injury Law's fight for justice, and they have attorneys available to speak for you at any time, whether it's chatting with them online or going through a phone call, a Zoom, an in-person meeting at their great Capitol View offices near downtown Nashville that has very easy, accessible, free parking, which is also a big deal. But BartDurham.com is where to go. Bart Durham Injury Law at BartDurham.com.
Hey, before we go, make sure that you've liked the show. Easiest way that you can help us. It's not too late. Hit that like button on Facebook, on YouTube. Like the show. Thank you very much for doing so.
Okay. Now, Nick says, I do believe A to Z prefers the Titans to draft Sanders because they think it'll be more fun, content, and entertaining to do so. I
keep hearing this too. People are like, oh, he's pushing it because he thinks they'll do better for clicks. Let's put this to rest. For all of the star power for Shedeur, if he's good, that if he's good is doing a lot of work. It's doing a lot of work. And there's a reason why Cam Ward, there's a reason why the league thinks Cam Ward is the better player, why he thinks he's the better prospect. If Cam Ward is a star in the NFL, we're going to be fine, baby. We're going to be great. We're going to be in great shape. Cam Ward, you know who does close to as many clicks as Shedeur Sanders? Cam Ward. And if only one of them is good in the NFL, a year from now, if Cam Ward is a certified, franchise player and Shedeur Sanders is fighting for his NFL life, Cam Ward's going to be doing a lot more clicks than Shedeur Sanders is.
I will tell you, as the leader of the website for our company, I will tell you what would be better for the clicks for Titans. Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter, if you're being real, Travis Hunter
behind door 3 is answer C.
Yeah. No, it's Travis Hunter. Why? Because you've got so many built-in questions and conversations and controversy going in. Is he a wide receiver? Is he a corner? Oh, you're playing him too much at wide receiver. He's better at corner. Oh, he's too gassed at corner because you're playing so much at wide receiver. So on and so forth, and all over the place. And then guess what? Guess what? Oh, they still need a quarterback. Then you're still talking about the quarterback. So exactly. Nick, I'll take that and tell you what I feel about it. So that
I'm not saying it wouldn't be fun to cover Shedeur Sanders. Of course it would.
Oh, I think it would be the least clickable person of the 4 that we're talking about is Abdul Carter. And yeah. I'm the one who says they should draft Abdul Carter and trade back to 3.
Yeah.
Ryan, Austin, you're so wrong. QB is the biggest position in sports. You don't get the show. It's not the fact that the quarterback is not the biggest position in sports. It's the fact that having a question about the quarterback drives more traffic.
Right. This is not an opinion.
Point that Nick Ewing is calling out.
We're talking about Rod, that the data of the website. Like we know what does better clicks. We already do. The numbers, the votes are in. But anyways.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. You know what doesn't drive a bunch of clicks? Patrick Mahomes.
Also true.
Because he's good. Everybody knows.
A lot of folks in media will tell you but in a personal conversation, they'll be like, honestly, sometimes it's just, I kind of think it's just better if the team is bad, because that's the question we get all the time. It's like, what's better for your business, when the team's good or bad? And a lot of folks in the media will say probably when it's bad, which I wholeheartedly disagree with. The real answer is, what's best for us in our business is constant change. You need to constantly be getting better or getting worse. When you are always the best or always the worst or always average, that is purgatory. That is hell. And so in a way, from a writing content business standpoint, like teams like the Giants and the Browns, similarly hellish to cover lately to the Chiefs. Now it's different and it's joyful and it's happier, but like when you're covering the Chiefs in week 8, looking for an angle when they're playing the Broncos for the second time in the year, and they're going to kill them and they're a 17-point favorite again, like it's not easy. It's not an easy thing to cover. So we're constantly looking for change.
Yeah. And the main thing is that, and also I think this is even more important, that you guys care is that. So, all right, super chat time before we wrap this thing up with some shade. Amnesia, going back to the beginning, signing Darnold gives me the Tannehill vibes. I don't know how I feel about going back down that road again, especially with a second-year head coach. And, Sam Darnold not expected to get the franchise tag later on today when that deadline passes, meaning that he will hit the open market, and we'll see how that goes. I mean,
I take a little bit of issue with this, by the way. I think we're at this point, I think it's a little revisionist history on the Tannehill thing. Because you know what they did? They signed Tannehill. They went to the playoff for 3 straight years. They went to an AFC championship game. They won the division back-to-back seasons. Like, it's the best stretch of Titans football in memory, right? In recent memory since the early 2000s. And so
let me say it this way. Ryan Tannehill's not the reason why the Titans had a downfall.
No.
It's
and guess
missing
what?
on
They
the
had
offensive line
Tannehill,
development.
and then it's that, and then also they had Tannehill. If they had hit on their Malik Willis draft pick, or if they had hit on the Will Levis draft pick, the good times could have potentially kept rolling, but they didn't. So it wasn't a Tannehill problem. It was in the same way that Darnold would be a stepping stone quarterback for you, a multi-year solution, but still a glorified bridge, probably. That's how Tannehill was. You still feel like you can compete, and if you get the roster to a certain point, you feel like you can really contend potentially, but it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
You have to have a plan after that, and the Titans didn't with Tannehill.
Right.
Or they did, it didn't work.
Or just have a better offensive line, not get the guy killed to where
number one, just don't miss on all the picks.
Like, he turned 34 and he had bad ankles, plural, because your O-line was garbage.
Do you know what that's like?
I don't have bad ankles currently.
Okay.
I am 34 though. Andre says,
well, you're not getting sacked by 300-pound men, so I hope your ankles
correct.
are a little bit better shape.
I have not gotten hit in a long time, which is, let's keep it that way. Andre, if I know the Browns stick and pick non-QB at 2, and then only then I do trade the Giants. I'm taking Sanders at 3, Raiders to try to make a move beyond 3.
We don't know that though, Andre.
We don't, but that's why I like the idea of trading back to 3, because you either get Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter at 3, or there's one quarterback there left and you kind of reset the draft a little bit. And there's one quarterback left that you could either take, or you could move back again because more teams are desperate to get the only quarterback remaining.
I'm going to be writing about this later this week, but to that point, somebody put it very plainly to me in this way, and it kind of hit me at Combine Week. The fact that the Titans potentially have the opportunity to trade back to 3, get a couple extra top 100 picks, and still land one of the only 2 blue chip players in the draft is an outrageous heist. You can't do that in pretty much any draft class. Like, it's just not an option for teams. And the fact that it's an option for the Titans, or at least it appears to be an option for the Titans, is why they are even if they really like Cam, they're thinking long and hard about if they love Cam, because that opportunity doesn't come along. And if you're looking to rebuild your roster, which this team is, it's a great way to jumpstart it.
For sure. All right, let's a couple super chats. Andre says, all I know is if the Titans tell him that Levis, Darnold, Carr, Cousins, or Rodgers or any cast-off backup is the guy and passing on a quarterback, he's not watching this season. Andre, you're
Liar.
lying.
I
Nice.
don't believe you.
I don't believe you. Absolutely not. You are lying through
You
your
are
teeth,
sending
Andre.
super chats and an off-season Titans morning show, which we love you for. But don't
Andre,
tell
we
me
will
that
see
that
you
guy
in
isn't
September.
watching in September. We'll see you there, bud.
Oh yeah, Andre.
We
love
get your
you.
point. We hear your
You're
point,
lying.
but don't lie to us.
You're not going to be happy, but you'll
Right.
be there. Curtis says, Cam, he goes, Cam, they don't have to worry about his dad taking their jobs. And that's a factor too, because
That's also a part of it.
In the video from the Ringer interview that Easton did, by the way, that's on both Facebook and our YouTube channel. To go watch that in its entirety, you should do that because it's good. Yeah, that's the other side of things. If Shedeur Sanders is very good, he is very famous, even more famous, and your franchise is on the map in a big way. But if he is very good and your coach is struggling, then yes, you have the distraction. And I think it was literally Sweat said, not verbatim, but there are easier ways to win than to have to deal with the Sanders family. But the Sanders family could also win on the field, and then you win in the pocketbook too. So, yeah. Andre,
Yeah.
I'll be watching your live, but I'm not spending my Sundays watching that nonsense. You
I
will,
still don't
though,
believe
man.
you. I still
You
don't
will.
believe you.
I believe you. I believe you, but you will be watching it. All right. It is now time for some shade. If you have shade, throw it.
Throw that shade. Come on.
Wrap up. This is all right. Teasing my shade. I don't know if I'm going to be on an island or not, because I'm throwing some shade of something that has annoyed me to the max. And I just want to know if I have friends that are also being annoyed, where we can be annoyed together. Okay. But let's throw some shade. Shout out to Wilson County Hyundai. WilsonCountyHyundai.com is where to go. Make them a part of your new car buying process. See them in Lebanon or online at WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Easton, I'll have you keep your eye on some shade.
Yeah, I want you to go first.
You want me to go? Well, let me just do this, because Jeff says shade on all the pre-recorded shows last week. Missed out on trivia and good news. So good news is today his birthday. Happy birthday to Jeff.
Happy birthday, Jeff.
Look, hey, we had to do the recorded shows last week because the NFL Combine schedule does all the player interviews for the media during the 8 o'clock Central hour or earlier. So that's just how it had to be. And it's over. It was 3 days. So
we wish we could have done it, but we couldn't have. Not possible.
Yes.
Be mad at the Combine for their scheduling, not us.
Charlie says this: shade on A to Z for showing ads mid-sentence. This is something new, and this isn't supposed to be happening, because I've noticed that YouTube has been playing mid-roll ads on our live videos when they're not supposed to be doing that. Our settings are not for that to happen, but it's happening. And Charlie, I'm sorry, and I'm sorry for others, because every time I notice that you guys comment and say that it happens, I try to go in the back end real quick and turn it off. Yeah, but sucks. It's not supposed to happen in the first place from our settings. So
while it's live or afterwards?
No, during the live show. Like I'll be like talking to them, boom,
goodness.
and like
so they just miss that 30 seconds of our conversation. Like,
yeah, basically. And I know Kick of the King says you can disable them. I know it's supposed to be default to that, but it's not.
Yeah, that sucks. I don't like that at all.
So this goes perfectly into my shade, because my shade is on
Orlando says Island. Are you doing Survivor? We got
no.
We're doing the Survivor Gauntlet here at A to Z.
No, my shade is on a commercial
on television.
And I don't know if it's on TV, because I see it. I hear it constantly on radio or streaming.
Oh,
or hear it.
Okay.
I listen to sports talk radio a lot. I listen to podcasts a lot during the day. That's kind of what I have on. It keeps me on clock because of the commercial breaks timing. I know what time of day it is based on where the ads are or where the commercial breaks are. There is one commercial that is driving me up the wall. Has anybody heard the commercial for Gaines Super Flings? It's a detergent.
I was about to say, I know what they are. Right.
Gain Super Flings is the most annoying commercial, and it's driving me crazy. And so I just want to know if you guys feel this too. or if I am by myself on this radio ad for Gain Super Flings.
So what's like? Can you give me more? What is the commercial about? What's so bad?
It's a jingle. It's like when they try to write a real song about about a product,
but it's just insufferable.
Gain Super Flings.
So you hear it and then it ruins your day. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because it plays in every break. Every break. It's awful. And it gets stuck in my head, and then I hear it probably a dozen times a day.
Better or worse than KARS, Cars for Kids?
It's worse.
Worse than the Cars for Kids commercial. Wow. I hope I never hear it then, because that's brutal.
Gain,
at least for the Cars for Kids one, you feel bad for hating it because you're like, well, it's a good cause. This is just for detergent. Somebody's making a buck off of. I don't want to hear.
It's freaking detergent. and Scott says they're doing their job. No, I'm never buying it. Never. Like never.
Hey,
never,
nice jingle.
Never.
You've lost a customer for life.
Buy Gain Super Fling. I don't use that detergent anyway, but I will never buy that. And Brad's right. I'd rather hear the Home Depot song all day. Oh, the Home Depot song. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's so good.
That one makes me want to like get up on a Saturday and get some stuff done is what the Home Depot song makes me want to.
And then watch College Game Day.
Yeah, exactly.
But like the Home Depot song, I'm surprised has not been sampled for like an actual hit. But
dude, yeah.
They must have some serious
nobody put that out there.
On that.
We're gonna try.
They might have some prices on that one.
How do we know it's there? Maybe they got it from somewhere. Maybe they sampled it. You never know.
I'll look that up. But that is my shade. Is Gain Super Flings. I don't like. What is a super fling? What's a fling? Why is it super? Like when did we?
Pod? Like what are we talking about?
Fling? A pod? Like I think it's a detergent pod, but I don't like. What is a fling? I hate it. I hate it so much. That's my shade.
Yeah, that's a good one. Is it on like 104.5? Where can I go to avoid this?
Well, I hear it on I use the iHeart app for stuff. And so like that's where I hear it. And I have no idea if it's local or national or streaming or not. So there you go.
All right. Couple shades from the comments here. First of all, Kick It to the King says just get YouTube Premium. Which fair point.
Yeah,
I have
for
YouTube
you guys,
Premium.
But like not our settings shouldn't be doing this to you.
Agreed, but also it's pretty nice. You should get YouTube Premium. It's nice. Let's see here. Shade on sports books, limiting customers who win while taking all the money from losing bettors, and shade on the laws for allowing it. Your right caps, the sports books are cowards. How dare they? Those sniveling loser cowards that hide behind their money making and don't allow the good bettors to make money. I'm with you. It's whack. But it's never going to change. So you can just get over it, frankly. Denise says shade on combine players not participating, at least doing some events. Totally understand that. It's a bummer. Understand why they do it. It's a bummer for us, but we'll see them at their pro days in the next month. So there's that. Donald says shade on people trying to act like Ryan Tannehill is a bad quarterback. 100% agree with you, Donald, there. Ethan says shade on Alabama for completely collapsing in the last 6 seconds. I'm assuming that's the basketball team. They were awesome. Are they no longer awesome? Have I missed this the past week? Sounds
Alabama?
like, yeah. Have they fallen apart?
They collapsed. Did you not watch the last bit of the Tennessee?
I saw the end of the. Oh, is he talking about literally that game? I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think for you, it's the opposite of shade. It's great. I wasn't watching the game, but I saw the final 6 seconds clipped on Twitter, and somebody was like really hyperbole in their comment. They're like, "This is the best thing I've ever seen," and I was like, "Okay, I'll be the judge of that." And then I watched it. I'm like,
I think let me just say
it's kind of crazy.
Cool. Jemai Meshack made that 3-pointer. Jemai Meshack does not. He is not an offensive player. He has been under heat by some ball fans. He's a tremendous defender, but he doesn't shoot well. But Rick Barnes challenged him, and by Rick Barnes's orders, made Jemai Meshack shoot more threes this summer than anybody else on the Tennessee roster.
Is that right?
And guess what? The first day of March, Jemai Meshack in a top 6 matchup at home with 3.8 seconds left is not the go-to guy. Alabama defended the first 2. Lanier, ZZ were taken. Gainey was taken. Jahmai had the ball. Jahmai made the shot because Rick Barnes coached him up to do that all summer long. So that's cool. I think that's coaching. That's college sports. I thought it was a really cool full circle moment. And also Jahmai does all the good things. They were down more and he was,
Does all the good things? Wow.
No, yeah, he did because the Vols missed a free throw and he fights for the offensive rebound, draws a foul on Alabama, goes to the line and hits 2 free throws to tie it.
Are they going to be a 1 seed, you think?
3. Currently.
Well, last year, where they were 2, 3, 2, yeah.
Last year, they were 2. They're currently the 4th 1 seed. So
exciting times. SEC basketball conference. As we've always, I have always said, the SEC is the basketball conference. What should my shade be? I'm trying to decide what my shade should be. Not many options out there. You know what? I'll go with something a little bit more friendly. I'll go with my my tour of Nissan Stadium yesterday. I got to go see new Nissan Stadium. Another article, so many articles I'm plugging today. There'll be an article on that later today about not like, I know you don't want to be bored with like, all these numbers and it's going to be this tall and this many feet from blah, blah, blah. Who cares? I asked like 5 very general questions that I didn't know the answer to that I found interesting. And I got some interesting answers. So it's going to be like 5 questions and answers that you probably will find interesting about Nissan Stadium. So I'm excited to share that later. Check out A to Z Sports to find that. But my tour was private, Austin, which I wasn't expecting when I got there. There were 2 tour times. I guess there were actually 3, but there were 2 that people really mostly went on. And there was like 1 early and 1 in the middle and 1 late. And everybody went to the early one. And when I mean everybody, I mean everybody. Now, I didn't go to the early one because I couldn't. I had stuff going on until 3:45. But I was on Twitter at the time of the early tour and was like, oh, man, like everybody beat me to it. I'm not going to be able to, like, nobody's going to care about me talking about it because everybody's going to have already seen it. I missed out on the fun. And then I kept scrolling. I'm like, I'm doing a mental checklist. I'm like, every single person on the beat is there now, which means none of them will be there when I'm there later, which means I'll probably get a private tour. And I show up and it's me and 3 Titans media folks and
like Titan employees.
Yeah. Titans PR folks and 2 construction workers that are there to like help show us around. And they're like, it's just you, man. And I was like, first of all, sorry for, that you're still here for just me. And like, well, we'll be here anyways. We're getting out of work to show you around. I'm like, all right. And so we went on an hour-long tour. They just, I got some special treatment. I got all my questions answered. A lot of good conversation, very relaxed. Don't have to deal with those jackals, those jokers, the rest of the Titans media, running around doing their whole media thing. So it was a lovely experience. New Nissan Stadium is incredible. All the pictures you saw do not even remotely do justice the magnitude of the thing. There's sometimes in life when you walk up to a thing and you're like,
what's the shade here?
The shade is on everybody else going to the same time and leaving me out. But it's also like, it ended up being a good thing that, if you get what I'm saying, like, it was like all of them, they overcrowded. Part of the shade is the fact that they overcrowded the first tour. And apparently there were some folks on that tour that weren't supposed to be on that tour. They were supposed to be on the late tour that just kind of showed themselves into the early tour. So shade on the people being impatient and going all to the early tour. But thank you for giving me the private tour in the afternoon. But my last point here is that I can't wait for folks to see it in person. Because, there are some times in life when you just see a thing and you're like overcome with the magnitude of it, the scale of it. It's just like, wow, I've never seen anything like, and obviously I've been in Nissan Stadium right over there next to it, but it's just, there's something about it. It's different, man. It's very different looking. Yeah, the pictures don't do it justice. I can't wait for folks to get in there to see it. I can't wait for it to finish building, because what you see when you pass on the interstate right now is only twice as tall as it's going to be. It's going to tower over Nissan Stadium in terms of height when they're done with it. So very cool.
Wow. Nice. All right. Well, that is it for us on this Tuesday. Tomorrow on the show, Easton will have a new Titans mock draft to break down, and we'll discuss that. So make sure you lock in, like the show before you go, subscribe to the YouTube channel, all the good stuff, 5-star Google reviews. Buck Rising will be live tonight for A to Z Sports Primetime and all of the updates throughout on social media and A to Z Sports.com/Titans. So we'll catch you guys later on Wednesday. Appreciate it as always.